The Ghostly Hitchhiker Scary Story. It was a dark and stormy night when John was driving home after a long day at work. The wind was howling, and the rain was pounding against his car. As he was driving down the deserted highway, he noticed a figure in the distance. It was a woman standing by the side of the road, her hand outstretched as if she were hitchhiking. Feeling sorry for the poor soul braving the weather, John pulled over to offer her a ride. The woman got into the back seat, and John resumed his journey. But as they drove on, he realized that something was not right. The woman was eerily silent, and her presence in the car sent shivers down his spine. As they approached a bend in the road, John looked in the rearview mirror to check on the woman. But to his horror, she was nowhere to be seen. The back seat was empty. John pulled over and got out of the car, searching for the woman in the stormy night. But there was no sign of her, and he was left alone on the deserted highway, feeling as though he had just encountered a ghostly hitchhiker. From that night on, John never drove on that stretch of highway alone, and he never picked up another hitchhiker again. The ghostly hitchhiker remained a haunting memory, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurked in the darkness of the night. As the weeks went by, John tried to convince himself that it was just his imagination playing tricks on him. But every time he drove down that stretch of highway, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease, as if the ghostly hitchhiker was still watching him from the shadows. One day, John decided to do some research on the history of the highway. To his surprise, he discovered that many years ago, a young woman had died in a car accident on that very same road. The woman had been hitchhiking home from a party when she was struck by a car and killed instantly. The more John delved into the story, the more convinced he became that the ghostly hitchhiker he had encountered was none other than the young woman who had died so tragically on the highway. From that day on, John made it his mission to warn other drivers about the dangers of picking up hitchhikers on that stretch of road. He even went as far as to put up a warning sign, urging drivers to think twice before offering a ride to anyone who appeared on the side of the road. But even now, as he drives down that haunted highway, John can still feel the presence of the ghostly hitchhiker, watching him from the shadows, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk in the darkness of the night. Despite his efforts to warn others, John couldn't shake off the feeling of guilt that he had picked up the ghostly hitchhiker. He started having vivid nightmares about the young woman and would wake up in cold sweat, feeling as though he were being watched by her. As the days went by, the nightmares became more intense, and John started to experience strange occurrences in his home. Objects would move on their own, and he would hear unexplained noises, as if someone were whispering in his ear. John knew that the only way to put the ghostly hitchhiker to rest was to face his fears and confront her. He drove down the highway one last time, hoping to find closure and put an end to the haunting. When he reached the spot where he had picked up the woman, he got out of his car and stood in the rain, waiting for her to appear. Suddenly, he felt a cold breeze, and he saw the ghostly figure of the young woman standing in front of him. John mustered up all his courage and spoke to the ghostly hitchhiker, telling her that he was sorry for what had happened and that he hoped she could find peace. As he spoke, the woman's expression softened, and she disappeared into the night, leaving John with a feeling of relief and closure. From that day on, John never saw the ghostly hitchhiker again, and he felt as though a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He learned that sometimes, the only way to face your fears is to confront them head-on and to seek closure, no matter how scary it may seem. The story is about a man named John who picks up a ghostly hitchhiker on a dark and stormy night. He becomes haunted by the encounter and discovers that the young woman had died in a car accident on that same stretch of highway. He tries to warn others of the dangers of picking up hitchhikers and eventually confronts the ghostly hitchhiker to find closure. He apologizes to her and hopes that she can find peace. The encounter ends with John feeling relieved and free.